Hello guys, and welcome back to part 2 of the Karlon Douglas page from Dream World. We're still using the Castle Art pencils to continue with this page, and I thought we'd start with the grass and the reeds and the stems today. Same as always, the colours I use I will pop down below just in case you're interested. The only thing I've done since I filmed part 1 is added some more layers to the water, some more blue over the top, and just fine detailed some of this blend and just come into these reeds a little bit more with the blue. It's all the same technique as we were using, just adding into the edges and a little bit more to just find these ripples in and finish things off. And obviously, so it didn't take too much time on camera for repeating things that we've already been doing. So for the reeds, I've got the same greens that I used for the lily pad. We've got Leaf Green Light 061, Green Gold 076, Sap Green 113 and Viridian 052. What I'm going to do first, very lightly, is take my lightest green, the Leaf Green Light 061, and just very finely, so I'm not burnishing or putting any pressure on, I'm just going over just the lightest parts of this section for the reeds. And just gently working that in to where the white is on the paper. Don't worry about the bits on the border, I just take an eraser at the end and neaten that up. If you can hear snorting noises in the background, it's my French bulldog. Ignore him. You might not be able to hear it, but I'm not sure how much the camera hears. Just so you don't think it's me. I promise it's not. They make some very strange noises between them. So that's just a light green layer onto anything pale. I have noticed we've got never drop your pencils. It's so painful to hear that noise, even with the cheaper ones. I'm just going to quickly do exactly the same thing we previously did for the other flowers in this little corner where I've missed one. Like I said, it can be a bit hard to tell with your grayscale when it's quite dark like this sometimes, but it doesn't matter, just add it in later. And then again, in this section, I'm just going to pick out the very palest patches. Just lightly with my palest green. I think, to be honest, here as well, there's just a little bit of water showing. Once you start to really focus on the small details, all these little pieces show to the eye quite easily. and you just fill them in. There we go. So moving on to my yellow-green colour I've been using, which is the Green Gold 076. I don't really tend to put them in camera because you don't tend to be able to see them, but there we go. And I'm just popping that into a few places where these reeds would be just ever so slightly darker, and just to give a different tone of green to my picture, so it's not all that flat pale leaf green light that we've used, because that's not the way the grass would be. And then my next green colour is the Sap Green 113. It's a little bit darker but not my darkest. You want a very fine point for this, nice and sharp. Realistically, oil-based pencils with a firmer lead would be easier for this, but that doesn't mean you can't use this kind of pencil. It just will have to be done a little bit more carefully, and you want to start to pop very fine lines of grass detail into this. You don't have to go all the way down, because that's where your darker green will be, so you might as well not expend the effort. I just want to pick out the green over the water. If you keep turning your pencil, it will keep that point sharp for you. So that's why you see me kind of twisting, that's what I'm doing. And just with this part, I never endorse wasting pencils, but with this part you need to keep sharpening your lead as it blunts down. I use the T-Gal pencil sharpener in case anyone's interested, on the shorter setting. And we're just trying to make sure we've got all the grass tips, even if you have to make up some of your own, doesn't matter. I just want all these top edges. I'm pretty sure this was another flower, but I'm possibly going to just colour over it at this late stage. Same again, finding all your darker patches, work them in. Just to get that grass edge. So I'm now going to, I think I'm going to take a little bit of this lemon yellow light and very gently patch colour over some of this medium grayscale. Again, as you go, you'll spot bits that you've missed, so just go back in with it, back to that slightly darker green, just to get these green edges. And you'll slowly start to see that coming to life. Now we've got a few reeds here, and before I continue, I'm just going to finish those off. They're in shadow, so I'm not going to use any light colours. I'm going to take burnt ochre 115 and burnt umber 068. Take the lighter brown first and pop them in the bit of paler grayscale that you see. And then the darker brown to do the other side and bring it into that somewhat, just to darken it up. There we go. Oh, and we've got one down here as well. Pop some of that warmer colour in as well. So I'm now going to take my darkest green, the 052 viridian, and we're going to same again. In fact, we'll sharpen that up a little bit while we do the top part. We're going to just pick out just flicking that in, layering it up into the other green colours to give that illusion of denser grass. Without just completely colouring it in. Same for this side. Sharpen your pencil as you go for this part. Doesn't really matter at this point if you're exactly following. You're almost using the dark to finish the part of the picture off. And then I'm going to do the same thing in the darker bottom corner. I'm still flicking it up like it's grass, but the difference being I'm essentially filling all this in. But when you're colouring, if you want it to look quite realistic on the page, you need to think of the texture you're creating. So if you just colour it in, it will look like that, especially on this kind of paper with the ink from the picture itself underneath. You've already got a lot going on and it will be very obvious. Whereas if you build this dark patch up by just keep layering grass on grass, it will look like that is what's there. Again, it's your page. You don't have to make any more effort than you wish to. At the point where you're fed up, do it the way you want to. This should be enjoyable. Not about which one looks the best. Because to be honest, if you're not enjoying the process, the point's been missed. And there are people out there that do these pages so much more beautifully than I ever could. It doesn't mean I let it stop me. From enjoying my own hobby. There we go. So it's dark and you can't see it as much on camera, I don't think, but in real life you can kind of still see that it looks like stripes, basically, the way the grass should. Excuse me, this cough's been around forever. And it has just left me with a very dry throat. So, exactly the same thing on the other side. Nice sharp pencil. Plenty of pencil strokes going over and over and over the top until essentially the black is covered. But because of the way you're doing it, it will look like lots of little strokes of grass still, even though you've built all of that over the top of it. And I'm just going to bring it up into my colours a little bit. Not scared to go over the flowers because the grass wouldn't not be over them. And I might add a bit of the shadow in with my green. And you basically keep going until you're happy with the thickness and the texture of your grass. So I hope I'm explaining these things in a way that's actually useful to you, and that this is interesting. So moving up the page, I thought for a bit of a difference we could start work on the little acorn house. So I'm going to use the browns I've already used, probably a bit of black. I've got a paler brown in this Terracotta Light 011, and I have got, just in case I decide to use it, this red brown, Indian Red 025, and we'll see which ones we use. So I'm going to start with my darkest brown. Let's see, Burnt Umber 068, and I'm going to start with a nice clean line down here where the bottom of my acorn house is, right the way along. And I'll probably do the same thing just here where the shadow would be. And then again, following the rule of the texture, everything in this goes up and slightly round. So I will copy that shape, just a thin layer, not pressing hard on the page. So there we go. Same again, going to create a very definite line and just fade that out and round. It will give the illusion of shadowing. Just going to fade this edge in a little bit. Same here, darkest area of the grayscale. Give it a nice sharp edge. I think I'll do the same thing just there. This time I'm not actually on the building, I'm on the roof, that's where the darkness is. And then just going to start to fade that out a little bit as this house is getting lighter now. Bring it down and in and just follow some of the pattern. Created by the picture for you. Let me know if I talk too much. You never know, you know, should there be silence? Should you just colour? Should I shut up? I'd do a colour and chat with you, but I can't do the two things at once, I've noticed. I just lose my train of thought too much and it doesn't make sense. And then I'm halfway through something and I've forgotten what I was saying. That's why I find it easier to tell you what I'm doing as I'm colouring instead. Because you're kind of still concentrating on the same thing that way. But if me prattling on is distracting from a relaxing colouring video, do let me know. I'd play music for you, but I never like those. And that's so selfish, isn't it? So I don't like those videos, so you can't have them. You have to put up with me wittering on in the background instead. Continue shadowing in around this door. It's quite difficult to tell where the edge is to this, so at best we may have to guesstimate it. It's not the end of the world. This is of course just one layer to pop the different browns in the places you want them to be, and then you can work on everything from there and just build them up to the point where you feel like it looks right. Same again, nice sharp edge, coming a bit thinner as you come into the light. That's probably not all we'll use of that colour, but for boredom's sake for you, and to actually get through some of this, we'll move on. The next brown I have is brown ochre 115, and I'm going to place that into some of the medium toned areas. This will look horrendous at this point in time. You know, you'll have this dark brown right next to this red brown, and they're next to each other, they're not blended in. That is fine. That's why we're popping these base layers nice and thinly down, so we know where the different colours are going to be, and then we can make it all look better later. It is the whole point, and they always look horrendous to start with. And if you're really unlucky, like a few of mine, horrendous when they're finished. But we live and learn. And I don't think I've ever not enjoyed a picture, so I've still got what I needed from it, even if it won't be hung on a wall anywhere. As we come round and we're getting a little bit paler, I'm going to change to a different colour. I'm going to go to a little bit of black, ivory black, 071 in this set, and build that into my edges. We need this to look like it's a round shape, so we're just starting to create the illusion of that. And add in some of the shadow in. Again, as I come in, just feathering it so it's nice and light, and the other colours will blend over it. And I'm basically popping that in where the shadow is. And I'm popping it as my base layer so I can put some brown over it, so it won't look too harsh. We've already got a lot of darkness with the grayscale, but if you can even see on camera, it just starts to give that darker edge. So the pale brown that I have is this terracotta light 011. And we're going to pop that in and then see if we think that's too yellow and too pale. I'm considering buying the Ruby Charm colour swatch book, because I've swatched all my pencils. I have bits of paper everywhere with them all swatched on. I never use them because I don't find it useful. But I must admit, as my pencil collection grows, it's probably easier if you can just pick, especially when you're on camera, picking the wrong colours doesn't look very good, does it? See, I lose my train of thought, no idea. Oh yeah, so I've seen that book pop up and thought, that looked interesting. Might have to have a look on YouTube and see if anyone's done a review of it and which actual swatch sets are in it. So we're just popping this everywhere in the lighter area. I'm making sure I get along this edge, because you'll notice the very edge is actually pale, and that's where your light's catching it. So I only want it to be this pale colour. And we'll go back to that slightly darker brown, the brown ochre. It's actually a very warm brown is this as well. Just to pop in now some of the darker areas here. Very lightly again. Again, following the texture on this sill, it goes upwards, not round. So now we'll pop this in, going up and down in the same direction the picture does. And it will give it that 3D kind of shape, it'll make it pop. So we'll get a bit daring now. We'll go with the Indian Red 025. And I'm just going to pop that very red colour quite sparingly. You don't want to go crazy with this. Into some of the mid to dark areas. Just to add some tone, some different shades to this, well, nut, shall we call it? That is doubling up as someone's house. I might very palely, just very lightly, add a bit in here as well. There we go. If you can hear it, that's my husband coaxing the dog, I think. He's obviously doing something he shouldn't be. Okay, back to my darker brown. The burnt umber, just for this patch in here. So we've essentially laid our base coat. The thing with whatever you're creating, you have to think about what that item is in real life. And if you look up, pretty sure it's an acorn. Although the browns will blend into each other, you will still see the distinct colours. So you want to just gently blend them without actually fully melting in everything into each other, if that makes sense. So you still see that bit of red, that yellowy brown. You don't want everything to disappear. You just now want to build everything up. And add the layers on to enrich those colours. I think too many people, especially when we start, we're very careful to go with a slightly light, a medium and a slightly dark colour, when actually in reality you want a very dark colour, a couple of medium colours, a different tone, and then a very light colour. Because the depth between the very light and the very dark that you're adding will actually make your page look more realistic, not less so, more vibrant. More detailed. And the water noises are my dogs drinking. So all I'm doing now is going over those colours with my second layer. The very light, some of the very dark, Honestly, my dogs are a menace. Lord knows what they're doing. You know when you leave your husband to supervise things? And you just know. That he's not doing. Back to the medium brown, the brown ochre. Again, we're now just building up these colours, starting to bring them into each other a little bit. Always following the texture, so if it's straight down in the middle, I colour straight down. If it's slightly curved, we colour slightly curved. Because that is the way the picture will look. Let's see. And it really is just lots and lots. We've added in your different browns. I think I want a darker true brown. So I think we'll bring in raw umber 116 and build that into everything else. Yep, that feels like what we were missing. I'm going to start to lay that. It's actually a lighter brown than it looked. That's the only thing with budget pencils sometimes. They don't always match what you think you're going to get. So I'm now bringing that over the top of the other colours. Again, still light pressure. Just starting to blend them into each other. Adding a bit more brown. So yeah, there we go. We're starting to look brown, shall we say. What we'll do as well, this window surround, what am I looking for? It bulges out, shall we say, and we need to recreate that. So we're going to pop a bit of our palest terracotta light just in here where the lightest bit of colour is. at a slight left to right diagonal, because that is the way that you'll find that part of the window is going. I'm then going to take my dark brown burnt umber, and again I'm going to define the edge. And the outside edge, as that will give it a bit of depth. And then this time right to left, because it's coming back up and around to meet itself. I'm going to create the bottom part of that windowsill. Bring it round. There we go. Okay, and then same, we need to create little C shape curves for the darkest part of this surround, and then just bring it down. We'll do the same with the going to use this raw umber, this more medium tone, little C's, little curls to keep the shape as we colour this part, and then just bring it down around. I'm going to take the brown ochre, and we're essentially just doing the same as we did with the building, just popping different tones of brown into that, but following the pattern, so little C shapes. And I'm going to take a little bit of the ivory black, and again just going to put that underneath, down there, in here, and then I'm going to just feather that in a little bit so we don't have a harsh edge, but we've got a very deep shadow. And when you're done, it should make it look like it pops forward, because if you'd have made it lighter here and darker in here and kept all your lines flat, it would have looked like a flat windowsill going in. And that's the beauty, there we go, that you're creating by following the page. These are very inexpensive Grayscale computer generated pages, so that is the image that you get. You need to kind of sit back sometimes and sort of just check there's not a mistake in the bit you're colouring. Believe in your own ability at what you're seeing and correct it if you think you need to. You know, it's quite likely that a little bit has misprinted if that's what you think. Don't just accept the page for what it is. Create, change it if you think it's not printed right. We've got these little wooden shutters and this setback wooden window frame, the door, and this little acorn porch roof, shall we say, and then the acorn roof. All the same rules will apply. You follow the texture and the different dark light tones. For the acorn roof, your texture needs to follow this shape instead of this one, and if you add darkness just underneath these, it will make them look like they are sat on top of each other. So I'd even thicken out a little bit what he's put in for you to emphasise that, especially because it wants to be a little bit dark anyway. We then have these, which, to be honest, what are they? We've got toadstools, an acorn house. I'm pretty sure the size of things are rather out of proportion if this acorn is about the size of a toadstool. So it's possible that this is grass then. So I'd go with green. You do seem to have some water droplets maybe on the grass vines. I don't know. Some kind of something. So to finish off for today, because we're getting a bit long, to be honest, your sky is pretty much like your water. Dark blue, medium blue, light blue. I'd leave this in as it will create its own cloud for you. Try and go around these almost photo splashes they've created on the camera if you like. So I think we'll go with a mushroom for something different on the page, and I think we'll pick this dark one because it would be maybe some interesting reds. And so I'm going to go with the Indian red we were using, 025, a pinky red, cadmium red, 024, and probably this brown yellow terracotta light, 011, and we'll see how we do with that. So I'm going to incorporate some black into it probably as well, but before I do that, with my darkest red, I'm going to lay that one nice clean edge again. Going to lay that dark red in along here. Careful of these vines, and in and around we go. If you can hear my husband, I apologise. He's gaming. They talk some absolute rubbish. But he's got headphones on, so they're so loud. He's like 3 rooms away, but he's still that volume. So I'm going to add some black in underneath. A nice short line again. I'm just going to fade that up and in over the red. I laid the red down first because what you'll now have is a darker red. You don't want it to just be black on grey. You want it to darken the red. We're then going to take that nice bright cadmium red and again we'll give a nice short line to the vines. There we go. Trying to avoid the white patches, but I think to be honest I can't be bothered with that, so I'm going to paint very lightly over the entire surface in that nice red, and the Grayscale will provide the different tones of red for us. And if I don't like it later, I can add some Posca back over that white to sharpen that all up and fix it. So that nice bright red everywhere. I'm going to pop a couple of layers in there, especially in towards the back where it would be curving around. Just give it a bit of shape and a little bit of shadow under this acorn. Blend that into the darker red. And then I'm going to bring in this terracotta light just for these lighter patches in the middle. Again, like I said before, I haven't really gone very pale with these because it's night time for me, I've decided. So this just adds a different tone to the red in the patches where I want it. I'm going to go back to that brighter red, add some of that back into the edge and the top. And I don't think I mind the spots being that colour actually, so I may leave them like that. Again, the darkest red, the Indian red, just to add another layer over this dark bottom edge of the mushroom. Make it look like it's curving in on itself. I watched my other video back a little bit to check if the new camera arm was working, and it was much steadier, so hopefully that has fixed the wobble issue I was having. And that is the top of my mushroom. So I would repeat that, a little paler colours for these and then darker for this one here and this one. And your stalks are quite simple. You take a medium brown, so say let's have this raw umber, and you pop that in the shade just there, and then feather it out a little bit paler, tiny bit here. That's how a round object works. And then I'm going to take this very pale brown, yellow brown, terracotta light. I'm going to pop that over the top and in the middle. That's a scratchy pencil, you get that every so often, but half of the time, to be honest, if you've not used them before, it's the coating they come with. So sharpen your pencil, see if it's better. There we go. So I'm going to build a few layers up there. It's a small object, nice and rich, and then I'm going to go back in with that darker colour right on the edge and then feather it in. Like I said, don't be afraid to have very dark shadow, because you would. Speaking of, we're going to take a little bit of the black, the ivory black, and pop a little bit of that nice sharp line down the edge. Feather that in as well, especially underneath the hood of the mushroom, and a tiny bit there, just to really deepen that shadow. And like I say, later I would spend time building up the shadow, the layers, the colour, until I'm happy with the depth of everything. And like I said, don't be afraid to really make your shadow dark. The Grayscale's done most of that for you anyway. You don't really want to wash it out. And I hope this was useful. I will probably finish the parts that match what we've done today, and then we will finish the sky. And please tell me down below what you think these are. Are we grass? Are we vines? Are we tentacles? I mean, we can be whatever we want, but we're going to have to decide to colour them. So we'll leave that for next time. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found this useful. I know I don't get through a lot. Bring in the bottom bit. Looks like I've done more then. But everything's in real time with my phone, I'm afraid. So that is what it is. If you like the video, please like it. Leave a comment below if you want to see anything in the next part, or any specific pencils. If there's any unboxings that you'd like to see. I'm kind of, I know I should not say this, but I'm in the market for some new pencils. I'm getting that itch again. You know, when you've already got far too many pencil sets, but you are obsessed with pencils and you see different ones and you want to buy pencils for no reason. That's me. Where was I? So, yeah, please subscribe if you like the channel. And apart from that, I will see you in the next video, guys. Thank you very much for watching.